Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chroma Connection. I have been your host, Jordan Romeo, and we are joined so far by Christopher Cant, and we're going to pick back up right where we left off. And I believe, Chris, we were going into how we stay inspired and motivated as artists and how we come over creative blocks and setbacks in our artistic process. So sorry
Yeah.
for the break there. If you could kind of take a second, get your bearings back going and where we're at.
Right.
But that's what we were touching on.
Yeah, getting inspired, getting over creative blocks. Okay. Well, I think I mentioned before, I always go back to Warhammer. If I feel like I'm losing, I don't know, I feel kind of, what I'm doing recently is kind of flat. I try to go back. I've got PDFs legally of these of the old Warhammer books from back when I was really into it, when I was like 8 to 12, that's kind of age, about 10 years old. The books that I was really into back then, and I have just to look through those, and that really helps me reconnect back with why I'm painting in the first place and what it is I want to make. And I think I mentioned as well, taking breaks from the painting and just doing something else for a bit, coming back to it the next day or a couple of days later. That really helps overcome blocks. I also write, and I find that if I'm fed up of painting, then at least I can write something, writing articles or a little snippet of lore or whatever, doing some fiction. I find just like if I just flip flop to the other discipline for a bit, it can get my juice flowing again for the other side, because my writing and my painting tend to like inform each other. I just find just working on something else that feels productive can really help. And reconnecting back with my old inspirations: Warhammer, John Singer Sargent, Frank Frazetta, Dark Souls. Just watching some Let's Plays of like Dark Souls or Bloodborne. Or
it's got a very inspirational grimdark style in itself, right? It's not really what Warhammer is, but it's still sort of that dark fantasy.
Yeah, and it's very visual. Like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, they've got they're very visual games.
Absolutely.
They'll fill me with inspiration for sure.
We've got some of the artwork up on the screen now that you can see from some of the games that Chris is referring to. And as you can see, it's, very, very inspirational pieces, I would say.
Yeah.
Knights and shields. And so, Chris, before I get into some of your pieces that I want to talk about here, is some of your series, I guess I should say. Let's go back a little bit further. Let's rewind a little bit and take us through some of your really early career, getting started in art, and kind of what allowed you to sort of continue to pursue this dream.
Okay, so like I said, I've been into it when I was young, like from Warhammer, around 10 years old. But I found as I was sort of entering my teenage years, I wasn't drawing so much. I was more concentrating on IT and computer science. I studied computer science at university. I think I was trying to think more practically. And like something that
you got to get a real job, right? That's what they say, right? Yeah, okay.
I didn't, even though I owned these Warhammer books in which there were paintings made by artists, I never figured out they got paid to do that. And they probably do it full time. I never really put it together. So I was, I was doing computer science at university, and I was miserable. And I even ended up going to like counseling because I was just miserable doing it. I ended up with the university counselor, and she said, "Well," I was like, "I think I'm gonna quit. I don't want to do this anymore." And she
You
said,
were gonna
"What was
quit
the?"
school, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
what
yeah,
you okay.
and she said, what would you do otherwise? You know, what would make you happier?" And I was like, "Oh, I used to draw a lot when I was young, and think I was quite good at it." So she encouraged me to get back into it, and yeah, then I just found when I didn't end up quitting school because I'm from the Falkland Islands, and they give like great scholarships basically, so they were covering everything. And so I thought I might as well get my degree in computer science. I just scraped it, literally, like just scraped the degree, just got it. But the whole time in my lectures, I was like drawing the lecturer instead of listening to what he was saying, drawing the other students.
Right.
Yeah, just yeah, I really wasn't studying. I was just I was studying art, not computer science, while I was there, pretty much.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Practicing your craft while studying computer science, right?
studying. Yeah. Yeah, and then I did end up going into IT for a little bit. Um,
Okay.
because I just didn't have the confidence, I think, to try to pursue art. Um, I didn't feel like my work was there yet. But
Yeah.
eventually, I did manage it. And it was kind of through an ultimatum. I was unemployed for a while and collecting, benefits, welfare, to pay my
Okay.
rent and stuff. And I'd been on I'd been on it for about, I can't think if it was 6 months or a year. It was a while, and they were like, "You got to get a job. If you don't get yourself a job, we'll get you one." So at that point, I was like, "I got to make the art thing happen now. Otherwise, I'm going to be
Absolutely.
doing something that they're just going to hand me. It's going to be terrible."
You end up stuck, right?
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. So I just kind of went crazy, finished up a whole bunch of paintings, mailed them out to tons of people, and actually, that Pox Nora card game was my first jobs, which is quite crazy, that I got to work on a digital card game straight away. Yeah, and from there, I just kind of Upwork was a big one for me, even though I don't like Upwork.com anymore for freelancing stuff. But at the
Okay.
time, it was a godsend. I managed to find some great work there, long term work that was just covering my bills. Yeah, that's how it kind of started for me. I just every month, just trying to do a little bit better.
Absolutely. And so from a literal starving artist story, Chris, I have to say,
Yes,
it's
yeah. I mean, even once I started doing the work, it was literally just enough to pay my bills.
just enough to scrape by, right? And
Yes,
and
yeah,
but at least, building that portfolio and building that confidence really, as you were saying earlier, to kind of drive you to the next level, right?
yeah, yeah. That was the main thing. I was lacking that confidence, and it wasn't until I was forced into it. Actually, I wrote an
Right.
article, a blog post on my website recently about it. Um, it wasn't until I was forced into it that I actually took the leap and really tried to finish some paintings, like some portfolio quality ones that might get me work, and throw them out there. It wasn't until like the ultimatum was put in front of me, like you either do it now or you get at
Or
some,
you're gonna be forced to do something else, huh?
yeah, you work in
Wow.
retail again. Um, yeah, and actually, I carried on being a starving artist for nearly a year. It was about 6 months to a year of just like scraping by when I decided to do the digital nomad thing. I came across it looking for ways to make it was very difficult to try to earn more money. I realized it would take ages to figure out how
Gotcha.
to get get better jobs that would pay better. It would
Right.
take a long time. But if I could reduce my monthly expenses, because I was living in Bristol in England, which is not the cheapest city
Not
in the world.
cheap at all, right?
Yeah. So I thought, how can I reduce my expenses? And I just started
Okay.
looking around and realized like I could move to a much cheaper country. Um,
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I did. I moved to Thailand, and that made everything way easier. Suddenly, I could like survive on half the money. Um,
Wow. That's
yeah,
life changing. I mean, honestly, right? It has to
yeah,
be.
it was life changing. Yeah, it's what gave me the space. Because before that, it was like I was on a treadmill, just like working constantly, just make enough money, and then as soon as I'm done, I'm gotta
Right.
get back for the next month. Whereas this gave me a bit of space to start thinking about to level up my career and how to actually get out of that treadmill.
I feel like that's that's half of the working world, right? That's just working to spin those gears and to just get by, right?
Yeah, I was quite lucky in that what I was doing was all online because it was all digital. So it meant I was, emailing my paintings to clients, and I was finding clients online. So it did mean I could do it remotely. So I realized then, I could do this anywhere in the world as long as it's got internet.
Gotcha.
So
And so was this work at the time coming in from the Upwork website you were referring to earlier?
yes, yeah. I got a long-term project with a guy, um, an independent guy. He was just
Okay.
developing his own game, and he needed illustrations every month. So I worked with him for like a year and a half, maybe.
Wow.
Uh, and another guy I think we met on BoardGameGeek.com. He was making a pen and paper RPG, and he needed illustrations as well every month. So between those two and occasional sort of meeting authors on again the same sorts of places, forums and freelancing websites. Yeah, authors that needed book covers, people that played D&D and needed their D&D characters painted, things like that. That's how that's how it went for me at the beginning, for sure.
That's truly awesome. Most artists, though, don't necessarily feel like they're an actual artist or validated in this space, I guess I would say, until somebody tells them they're an artist. Was
Yeah,
the Pox Nora job that for you, or what was that moment for you?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, because until then, I hadn't really I hadn't made any money from my art really. Perhaps something small when I was a kid, and I felt like when I was like 15 or something. Someone, I remember my aunt asked me to draw a horse for her, and she paid like about $50 for it. Um, so I think that was the only time I'd really earned money from my art. So yeah, Fox Nora job was huge for me, definitely. And then getting that continuous work from those two clients, it made me realize like, I am actually, at least I'm good enough for some people to purchase this. Um,
Absolutely. That's the validation right there, right? So would
yeah,
you say that's more of the validation is having a paid piece of art versus somebody verbalizing that you're successful in the space?
yeah. My goal was always to be able to do it for a living. That's what I wanted to do.
Absolutely.
I understand if that's not their goal, and I'm not sure what metrics they would use to measure their validity. Perhaps like some people just want to have their work up in a show, or they'd feel validated if they got a big social media following. I'm not sure, but for me,
Right.
it was be able to pay my bills every month with my art. That's what it was, and those things made that possible.
Absolutely. So we've got the Pox Nora job. We've done some work on Upwork. Where did the hate relationship in Upwork start?
Well, Upwork's problem is that it's a race to the bottom. It's
Ah,
artists competing for jobs, which is not, if you're trying to level up your career,
right.
competing, like there's a few jobs and lots of artists all competing for it. Obviously, one of the ways that you're going to compete is by trying to undercut the other artists.
Mhm.
Or if
So,
you're
so
trying
it's a
to,
field of everybody almost dragging them each other down.
yes. And if you're not undercutting, someone else might. So
Right.
it's not a good environment to level up your career at all.
Absolutely
Uh,
understandable.
it's much better what you really want is for clients to be competing for you. That's the situation you'd want to be in as an artist. So I realized,
Absolutely.
yeah, so I realized like I need to build towards that. I kind of need some unique selling point that sets me apart, or I need a large audience that makes me desirable and makes me look like, um, I've got something that they need. So that's
Got
why
to show the
I felt
value, right?
show value, exactly. That's why I kind of felt Upwork and those forums, they're good starting point, but they're not. I don't think you can sit there. It's
Right.
it's just a stepping stone.
And
At least not as
how would Upwork compare to like Fiverr of today? Is I guess what I would know of.
right. I mean, Upwork is still around. I just
Okay,
don't know. Yeah, I just don't know much if there's much art going on there, or what really the. I think writers probably use Upwork a lot still.
gotcha.
It's you would just get like, because Fiverr is sort of the other way around. You post as an artist, you post a job, the sorts of things you can handle, right? And then clients would come and just purchase, they do orders. Whereas Upwork is the other way around. It would be clients posting jobs,
Okay,
and they'd say, "We've got this budget, we need this made," and then artists would
right.
send proposals like, "I can do it. It's going to cost this, and here's my portfolio." But you'd end up any decent job, you would get easily 50 plus artists applying if it's a good
Oh
job.
wow.
So
Yeah, for the good jobs, right? The ones that people would actually want to do, right?
yeah, yes, and then
Gotcha.
you can get the other ones and try and maybe you're competing with just 10 other artists, but and you're gonna have to find ways to, if you get the job, find ways to cut corners, to do things more efficiently, in order to make a viable wage out of it. But then obviously that's not why I started painting, in order to cut corners and try to make efficient art. Like I know I want to make the art that speaks to me. I don't want to make
Right.
efficient, like corner cutting artwork. That's not what I'm trying to do. Um,
Just to
so
undercut somebody else by, $5 or $10 or something, right?
yeah, which then means if you want to pay your bills on time, you need to then figure out how to reduce the, you know, you need to do twice as many paintings in a month as you normally would do,
Absolutely.
which means you got to figure out how to make them like in half the time. It's not a fun process. But again, to go from zero to there is I think it's what, for anyone who wants to make art for a living, it might be worthwhile just to experience it, and to, again, it gave me the confidence to know I could do it, but now I just need to find a better method.
Absolutely. And I mean, with kind of what you're saying right now is a perfect segue to one of my next questions, which is how do you balance the business side of being a self-employed artist with the creative side of continually being able to put out, good art that stays within your vision and stays within your theme and doesn't cut corners, as you said? And I know it's a loaded question, so kind of unpack it as you want.
It's I mean, it's a struggle. It still is a bit of a struggle. I think because I kind of took a break from social media for the past couple of years, because I was streaming on Twitch and posting regularly on Instagram, trying to build a Patreon. I started a big Discord server, and it grew quite big. But it was stressful, really stressful. I just felt constantly overwhelmed, and like, even though the money was coming in a little bit easier, I still felt like I'm just scraping by every month, even though I'm not having to scramble for clients now. I kind of felt like, once I got that process down a bit, I wouldn't have to scramble for clients, but it still felt like I only just got enough time in the month to do what I need to
Right.
do. It wasn't now it wasn't about getting the clients. It was more about figuring out how to get just any spare time or any spare money. Um, so yeah, it's a real struggle. But what I found helped was, I mean, they always say it, but working on things that provide a more passive income, less like finding ways to do something, to build something that then it's not attached to your time anymore. It's a resource that can either like attract people to you,
Absolutely.
or it's a product that's monetized, so that all the effort you're putting into a building audience, you have something to direct them toward that will maybe earn you a bit of money. Yeah. So I started a blog, Self-Employed Artist, and that was the big thing for me. I mean, my first attempts were like Twitch streaming, because I realized like, oh, I can just stream
Right.
myself painting the things I paint, and then
Sure.
more people.
There's the art category, right? There's
Yeah, yeah,
plenty of people successful in the space.
yeah, yeah. I figured at least then I can paint the things I normally paint, and people can watch, and maybe I'll get some donations, subscriptions. And that did work a little, but it's
Yeah.
again,
What was the traction like on Twitch?
it wasn't so bad. It was fun as well. I got up to 3,000 followers in a year and a half or something like that. I think I did. It was quite fast. I mean, in my opinion, I mean, comparing that to some of the other sections on Twitch, some of the games,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
pathetic. But I felt like it was, yeah, it was all right. And it was what was most meaningful about it was some of the relationships. Like,
The
still,
community that you're building, right? That's
yeah,
what people
yeah.
normally say.
There were some core people who would come to my streams. And I started streaming again recently, and they still come now. And I've been friends with them for years. And
Amazing. It's
yeah,
amazing the support from some people on the internet, right?
right, yeah, they've become
Truly
some of my best
crazy.
friends.
And what's the
Um,
handle you're streaming under on
it's
Twitch?
it's just my name, Christopher Cant.
So Christopher Cant on Twitch TV.
Yeah,
Perfect.
um, yeah. Uh, they've been very important to me, and actually, we've gone on to do all sorts of things together with that gang. So yeah, I think Twitch is a great way to build deeper relationships with your audience.
Have
Social
you
media is
tried
pretty
some of the
strong.
other platforms, like YouTube or even doing,
Um,
TikTok shorts of quick sketches or anything like that?
that's something I've literally started this month is shorts and reels and things like that.
Okay.
It's slow going. I left my Instagram sitting for like 2 or 3 years, and I've still got about 10,000 followers there, but none of them are engaged at all. So it's like I'm
Right,
starting
it's
fresh.
about the community engagement, yeah.
Yeah. Reels have been okay. Actually, funnily, Twitter is the place that, because I've started doing a daily sketch, and I'll turn it into just
Very
a
cool.
well, the software I use records me painting in the background anyway. So I just figured I can put these recordings up really easily. Twitter is actually where I'm doing the best from these daily sketches. Just putting the videos up there and writing a small snippet of
Right.
fiction to go alongside it.
You're getting a lot of community engagement off those, you're finding?
Yeah, I'm finding. Yeah, I think Twitter's the best engagement. Again, it's not as deep as Twitch. Twitch is really great for building like a deeper connection with people, but Twitter, it's a deeper connection than on Instagram. Instagram tends to be quite shallow. TikTok is quite shallow, but Twitter, you can actually, it's much easier to have a conversation with the people that are viewing your
They're
work.
live in your chat and engaged in your content, right?
Right, yeah. Twitch is great for the live talking. But yeah, Twitter, just in the comments underneath whatever you post, it's much easier to have a bit of a chat with them. And yeah, so I'm surprised about Twitter. But yeah, I think Twitch is a really good kind of an anchor, like a central content generator, if you know what I mean. And then like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok,
Right.
kind of like spokes on a wheel leading back to Twitch. I guess YouTube would also work as the
Sure,
center.
as your center hub, right?
Yeah, yes,
Everything else are added branches where you're kinda trying to expand that community out a little bit.
yeah. In fact, YouTube is probably a better central hub than Twitch, but
Surely.
currently, um, I haven't figured out YouTube. I haven't started yet. It's one day.
Right, right. Right, getting back onto social media, I'm sure as an artist, it's gotta be important to take advantage of those platforms to kinda share your art and share your vision out there, right?
It has, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I said, I took a couple of years break. The because I was doing the Twitch streaming, Instagram posting regularly, and
Right,
I was
right,
just
right.
struggling to get by. And then I got offered some really good freelance work for a mobile game, and it was immediately. I took a break from streaming to do it because it was under a non-disclosure agreement, so I couldn't share it.
You couldn't be streaming what you're working on, okay.
Yeah, so I took a break from streaming, and immediately, like the money problems just disappeared because it was good work. And I thought
Right.
I need to probably go back to the freelancing for a bit. But within this new paradigm where I actually get good work that pays my bills, and I'm in Thailand, so my bills are tiny. So I need to go back to the freelancing for a while. So that's what I did, and I was doing way better. And then now that I had this big cushion of money that I'd made and small bills, I decided I was going to start a blog. That's the passive income thing, the passive audience
So
ads
what
on
we
the
talked about
blog.
earlier, right? The passive income, set it and
Yeah,
forget it type streams. And that's the
yeah,
self-employedartist.com.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that did really, like, within six months, it was already starting to make a bit of money, and then within a year, it was it was making more than my bills were. So my low bills, very low bills, but it
Surely.
was making more than my bills. Um, so that was life saving. That was a complete shift in my lifestyle suddenly. Um, that's why I took the break from social media, because I realized, like, freelance doesn't rely on social media currently. I was just getting clients from emailing, cold emailing, or whatever, and then the blog meant I really didn't need to do the social media thing. So I
Absolutely.
just tried to just figure out something else that didn't require, like, grinding away, getting followers on Instagram or whatever, and then hoping that one of them will commission you or something. The blogging felt like a much smarter way of making money and getting my bills paid.
Absolutely. And starting out, what was the vision of starting this blog? It's just inspiring other artists or sort of being a teacher and a mentor?
It was about teaching, really. I realized that there were a lot of YouTube channels, a lot of YouTube channels with
So YouTube
artists.
for everything, right?
Yeah, and art especially, because obviously it's visual, so it makes sense, and you
Surely.
can record. Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense that it would be on YouTube. But I just found that if you Google a question, there is very thin resources on articles and things for digital artists, and some stuff really is better written down than it is in video. If
Well,
it's
some
like
people learn differently, right? It kind
and
of goes
some
back
people
to
do.
that. Some people are visual learners, some people like to read.
Yeah, yeah. There's some stuff that I much prefer reading than I do watching a video, and it makes more sense if it's what's a good example? One of my articles is about canvas sizes. People never know if they're new. They don't know what size to make their digital canvas. They don't. How many pixels does this thing need to be? I've got
Right.
no idea. What resolution should it be? And making a YouTube video on that is kind of awkward. But if you are making it just a big article where you can write, like, oh, if you're trying to make this sort of thing, you want it like this. If you're trying to make this kind of thing, like a T-shirt design, you probably want it like that. If you're trying to print it, it's like this. If it's just to post on social media, make it these sorts of resolutions. Laying that out in a YouTube video is going to be it's not a good YouTube video. It's not
Right.
interesting. It's just you listing things.
It
Whereas
doesn't
with an
watch
article,
well, right?
yeah, exactly. An article, the person can arrive at the article, go to the thing that they're looking for, get it instantly, and then now they know. Then they're off. Now they can get back to their painting. So I just found certain things were lacking. I think when you were googling them, I just realized, like, I can write this. Um, yeah, and it worked. Yeah.
Wow. So it's literally, one of the true business stories of finding a need and filling it, you know?
Yeah.
You saw a
Yeah.
need and a void in the art world of having, an educational source like this for people that want something different, and you filled that need. That's amazing. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. And I knew blogging could be a passive source of income. So I knew, like, this is exactly the sort of thing I need to do, and exactly the sort of thing that the market needs. So yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Chris. So the Nidean Legacy, your first big series, would you say?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Definitely. That was me. How that worked is I kind of noticed all the things I liked to paint. Like, I liked to paint guys in armor. I liked to paint demons and elves. So I realized, like, I should sort of wrap this up into a little package and name it. Um, and I called it Nidean Legacy. Yeah.
An absolutely amazing series. I spent a lot of time with Robert going through a lot of this art. S- what sort of got us here? You know, we've gone through the journey a little bit, but this had to have been a significant undertaking of just everything coming together. You know, your time, your efforts. You know, you've moved to Thailand, you've downsized, you've done everything to get here.
Yeah, it was well, when I started streaming, and my income was no longer tied to so much to clients. Um, and sometimes I'd have space to work on my own things on the stream. So I'd kind of like compiled, or figured out what it was I liked to paint. I figured, like I said, I like to paint knights, I like to paint demons and elves. And I was very inspired by Warhammer, which is obviously broken into similar factions. You've got the
Okay.
Empire, Britannia, and Lizardmen, and Orcs, Skaven. So I kind of thought, I'm going to do something. I'm going to just start building something similar, something similar to this thing I love. And yeah, I just noticed the trends in my own work and decided to categorize it into factions and work on it on stream when I had enough. I paid my bills for the month, and I realized like, oh, I can do what I want for the rest of the
Right.
month.
There's some freedom there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of how it began. Very strongly inspired by Warhammer. What I was trying to go for, because I couldn't pick between, do I like Warhammer Fantasy or do I like Warhammer 40K? Do I like the science fiction stuff? I lean towards
That's
fantasy.
what's tough for me. Yeah.
I lean towards fantasy, but I still like 40K. I still like science fiction. So I kind of tried to hit a middle ground with fantasy with some sci-fi elements to it.
Absolutely.
And it was awesome fun. Yeah, a lot of fun. People still, because I took a couple of years break and then I'm back to streaming, and people still ask like, "How's Nidean Legacy? Are you still working on it? I really like this thing that you made, back
Absolutely.
a few years ago." Yeah,
That's got to feel good, right?
it is cool. Yeah, it's sad because I'm not currently working on it, because it was hard to actually generate any income from it. It was very difficult. I think
Gotcha.
it would need a big team to build something. Imagine trying to build something like Warhammer from scratch.
Unbelievable. I wouldn't even, I mean, how? How,
I don't know why I was trying.
right?
So I think I need a big team or decades to make. Firstly, you got to make the art and the writing, but then you got to figure out how to market it. And you got to, it was just
Surely.
it was so hard to monetize it at all.
And what sort of time and effort goes into a series like that, Chris?
Oh man,
Tremendous.
huge. Yeah, I don't know how long I was working on it.
Yeah, can we put a time frame? You mentioned a decade earlier, so that's what I'm saying. Is this over a 10-year project?
Well, yes. I mean, I'd say for about 5 or 6 years, I was really like, this is Nidean Legacy. This is what I do. Like, I do other things to pay the bills, and then when I'm not paying the
Right.
bills, I do Nidean Legacy. But
It's the
there was probably
passion project.
yeah. But there was another
Amazing.
probably 5 years before that, which I'd drawn from. I used a lot of the art that I'd made in the 5 years previous to that in the project, definitely. And it was sort of, I don't know if
Okay.
you've ever played, a lot of it started with Baldur's Gate. I don't know if you've ever played the Baldur's Gate games.
Yep. The one I remember is Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, I believe.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of Baldur's Gate, what is it? The one Sword Coast and Baldur's Gate 2 and Throne of Baal, Shadows of Am. But you can
Okay.
upload your own custom portraits. And I did some custom portraits for myself. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I like this.
Yeah, very nice.
And then that was the moment. That was in 2013, maybe. That was when I thought I can.
That was
turn
when
this
you committed to the
something.
project.
Yes, that was the moment where I realized, like, oh, this can become a thing. So 2013, that was 10 years ago. Wow. Yeah, that would have
Time
been
flies when you're having fun, huh?
right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and you've transitioned now, right, to a new series? Is that correct, Chris?
I have, yes. It's inspired by the same things. It's inspired by Warhammer, um, and it's a kind of a continuation of Nidean Legacy. The things I liked about Nidean Legacy, but it's the Fall of Camelot is what I've called it, and it's Arthurian legends mostly. That's the basis for it. Because a lot of what I really liked about Warhammer and what I was working on in Nidean Legacy was noble houses of knights and peasantry. I really like the Bretonnians in Warhammer. They're based on Arthurian legend. They're kind of almost a French kind of faction. And so I realized what I really dig out of Warhammer is the stuff that's based on King Arthur, of the Arthurian legends. And actually some of the other Christian stuff like demons, they're a very Christian thing, and angels and
Right.
things like that. So yeah, and with Nidean Legacy being quite hard to really get people to invest in, I realized like maybe I can start a new project that is close to what I was doing, but people might be able to connect with more.
Okay.
So that's what I was doing, and I'm still connected to, which is the Arthurian stuff, which is the root of the things I liked about Warhammer. It's still there. So yeah, and it's been great fun so far. It's really cool learning the original stories that Warhammer was sort of inspired by. Like the Green Knight is in Warhammer Fantasy, but learning the original story of the Green Knight in Arthurian legend, it's I don't know, it's really cool to see.
It's cool that there's
root.
overlap there, right?
Yeah, it's really cool to find the root of the thing that inspires you, what they were inspired
Absolutely.
by.
Right.
A
What
lot of it actually,
inspired Warhammer? It had to, the
yeah,
inspiration had to come from somewhere, right?
right, yeah. Actually, there's a character I painted called Aoun, who wasn't Arthurian. I painted him when I was trying to figure out this transition from Nidean Legacy to a new thing, because I knew that Nidean Legacy had issues with getting people invested. And it was supposed to be like a creator god. I was like, he's a creator god. He's created the universe. He's called Aoun. And I was looking into Greek mythology, and I realized I'd basically painted a god called Ion, and his name was almost spelled exactly the same way. And some Greek cults believed he was the creator god. And I just realized, I'm just reinterpreting the mythology. Like
That's
somewhere in the
awesome.
back of my head, I already knew this. I'd already known about this.
Right.
Like there was the Nidean Legacy was filled with there was titans who were then overthrown by a new race of gods, which Greek mythology is titans overthrown by the Olympians.
Absolutely.
I realized I'm already very inspired by this stuff because I like Warhammer, I like Lord of the Rings, tons of different fantasy novels. So yeah, I realized I was already making these projects, but with an extra veneer of inspiration,
Right.
Mm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you've got to tell the people at home watching Chroma Connection, Chris, what's next? What are your next goals in art, and what are you most excited to work on next?
Well, Fall of Camelot, I want to the goal of it is that's what I want to concentrate on pretty much. I want to build self-employed artist up enough, because it currently doesn't cover my bills. It did cover my bills when I was in Thailand, but I'm no longer in Thailand. Self-employed artist no longer quite covers my expenses, so I still work on other things occasionally, which is fine. Like I'm happy to be able to travel now. I don't have to stick in Thailand. And COVID definitely messed things up. So that's why I'm no longer in Thailand. So I'd like to build up self-employed artist a little further and create some courses, tutorials, things like that. And then I want to concentrate on Fall of Camelot and really build that into something much bigger. I'd like to create with Fall of Camelot what I wanted to do with Warhammer, Nidean Legacy. I would want to Well, I'm working on a novel, which is a retelling of one of the lesser known stories in Arthurian legend, Tale of Sir Balin, who is actually he's a really important character, and he sets up a lot of what people know, like the Grail, the Holy Grail. He sets up that situation of needing to find the Grail, um, and he's an important character, and he's very early on in the Arthurian legends. So I want to rewrite a novel about him. There is a story told about him, but it's very problem with the old legends. The way they're written is they just miss a whole load of stuff out there because they don't feel like it's
Absolutely.
important. They're just like,
Right.
oh, and then he met this guy, and then a thing happened, and you're like, why? Who's the guy?
We want that minutia. We want to know what
Yeah.
happened in between the thing.
Yeah. Who's the guy? Why did the thing? So I want to try to retell it, hopefully with a bit more of with a modern audience in mind who expects certain things. And yeah, I want to try to expand the project into a large website that's both educational on the old myths and also hopefully entertaining with new stories and awesome art. And hopefully it can be expanded into gaming and things like that. I don't want to try and undertake that all myself, but I do know some guys now who make D&D supplements, for example, and he's expressed interest in maybe turning Fall of Camelot into a D&D supplement. I know some guys who make games now. So now that I'm in my career a bit deeper, I can kind of see opportunities. Yeah. He's scrolling through some of the website there. That's kind of a bit of a look at where I'd like things to go. This is the kind of educational stuff. This is the actual legend of
the history, right? The lore, truly.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Some of the background. A possible novel might be in the future then, huh? That's very interesting. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled for that.
Yeah. I really like to write, but I've never tried writing anything big. It's always been like a lot of my Instagram posts, I've done small paragraphs of lore. Very inspired again by Warhammer. When you see the army books in Warhammer, there's
the battle tomes. I have a couple of them at the house. They're amazing. When you see the dioramas they make and they paint in those books, it's amazing. Right. It's unbelievable.
But there's usually got like small snippets of lore, like a small tiny story, So I'm very inspired by them. I've written quite a few of them, done that quite a few times on Instagram, and I'm starting to do it again. But I've never tried writing anything bigger. So I've always admired fantasy writers, but I've never actually tried to do it. So yeah, it's a bit of an experiment. It could end up awful. I might be terrible at it, but I am a perfectionist, and I'm quite good at analyzing other people's work and applying what I learned to my own. So I think it might take me a long time, but I think I can produce something that's not shit. So just with enough time.
It sure has. I do wish you the best in producing your novel up to that par. I really do. I really do. Chris, you've got to give some of the young aspiring artists that are watching Chroma Connection with us this evening. They're just starting out. What kind of advice can you give them?
Oh, I would say, I think you gotta dive in. You gotta really dive into it. You can't. I don't think just dabbling in the evenings. I don't know. It's not quite. I think you gotta go in with both hands. You gotta find ways to put as much of yourself into it as you can. You don't want to drive yourself insane. You don't want to burn yourself out. But you need to find ways, things that you can move aside for a while and really submerge yourself. Because that was huge for me, was taking that leap to Thailand and taking the leap to actually apply for the work, but then taking the leap to move to Thailand. Thailand completely changed everything for me. It was a huge shift. and that's a scary thing. I only speak English. I didn't know anyone in Thailand. Never lived abroad. Well,
Wow.
I'm from Falklands, but I'd moved to UK, but it's essentially the same country, just very far apart.
Right.
So it was scary, but that was huge, huge for me. So I think don't be irresponsible. If you have a family that depends on you, don't be doing anything
Right.
crazy. But if you're young and you've got a family who, if things go wrong, you can always they'll look out for you. You can always, okay, fine. You tried something, it went wrong. You're gonna have to move back in with your parents where you work on now. Plan B happens. Okay, fine. But I think a lot of people they make a plan B because their plan A is art. Plan B is like, I guess I'll go into graphic design. But then they end up putting way more effort into plan B. That's why I find a lot of people they're preparing for their art career to fail, but they put so much effort into this preparation of plan B that plan A never gets the chance to blossom into a career. So I think that's my advice: is really freaking. If you have people that, if things go wrong, you can rely on them. You can move in with them. They'll you're not gonna be on the streets if this goes wrong. I think you just gotta go for it, grab it both hands, and really devote yourself to it for a while, even though it's gonna suck for quite a long time. You just gotta find ways to make it work.
Sure thing. Absolutely.
And I guess more practical advice would be do something like start a YouTube channel or a blog or a Twitch stream. Start something that works as like a central place for people to get to know you. It's not just about making art and making good art. It's about like your personality now. It's about people getting to know you and investing in you as an artist, not about your paintings. When someone buys one of your paintings, they're buying a piece of you. That's what they want. They want to support you. So I think practical advice doesn't matter how early you are, start something, a YouTube channel, a blog, Twitch stream, or even those TikTok like reels or whatever, but put your personality in them, show your face, and let people know you. Don't try and come across like some sort of very professional, like, no, just be yourself and let people invest in it. That's my advice.
Very well said. Very well said, Chris. So you heard it here from Christopher Cant, our aspiring artists out there. You gotta freaking commit and just throw yourself at this thing. All right.
Yeah.
You'll with enough effort and passion, you'll find yourself on the other side of it. All right.
Yes, but it is going to be tough. It is going to be tough.
Surely, it's going to be a journey. I mean, you've taken us on one today. It's been a truly great story today, Chris. I really appreciate it. It was a great journey to go on with you. Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to leave our viewers with today?
Keep drawing. I don't have anything else to say. Just try and keep it fun. It can be really hard when you're trying to. A lot of this is about like you're making goals. Trying to work for certain people, trying to make a certain amount every month, trying to get better at a certain fundamental. Your perspective is bad. Your anatomy is bad. Oh, I can't draw women. Or feet. I can't draw feet. I keep hiding feet. It's so hard to like. You're always concentrating on what you're lacking in this. So I think just try to remember to have fun. It's supposed to be fun. That's why you're doing it, because you decided you wanted to have fun while you work. That's probably why you're an artist. If you're not having fun, you could be stacking shelves, and probably it'd be easier.
Right. Less stress.
Less stress. So just try to keep it fun. If it's not fun, maybe think about why and how you could make things more fun.
How you can improve your fun levels.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely. Chris, we appreciate you joining us today on the Chroma Connection. All right. We do appreciate having you. and we appreciate you telling your story today.
It's been really good fun, Jordan. Yeah, I've had a great time. Sorry about the internet issue.
Don't worry about it. Sorry about our technical difficulties as well. A little bit of growing pains. But Chris, thank you again for being with us. All right. Have a great day.
You too, man.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Chroma Connection with Christopher Cant. Absolutely amazing story and journey he's taken us on. You can check out Christopher Cant's work at Twitch TV / Christopher Cant. You can also check him out on Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. He's got some content out there. And we can also visit his website at selfemployedartist.com. You can check out his series, The Nidean Legacy, The Fall of Camelot, and more to come from Christopher Cant. I have been your host, General Rums, Jordan Romeo. You can check me out as well at Twitch TV, General_Rums. And this has been an SGXR production of Chroma Connection. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.